Friday morning, I've started going to the early workout at 6. This one was brutal. Okay, I'm mixing this song, and I also got a question on Facebook that ties into what I want to talk about for this song. It's really fun. So the question was about how important are room mics in recording drums? Seems like they're less and less relevant, or like no one's talking about them. And I think a big reason a lot of people don't talk about them is because a lot of people are recording in small rooms like this, where there's just not much of a room sound to capture. If you're especially if you're in a small bedroom, once you have the kit set up and overheads, your room mics might be at most another foot away from the kit. Might capture an interesting different sound, but it's not gonna be this great room sound. That's why I firmly believe that there will always be a place, as long as rock and roll exists, there will always be a place for people to record drums where the room sounds great. You can yes, you can set it up here, you can record dry, you can add reverb later, but it's just not the same as having a really cool room mic. One solution that I do in here, if you see that door over there, there's a bathroom, and then the other side is a small room, smaller than this, but that's where I track drums. And since it's not a big room, there's no room sound, I'll actually put a microphone in that bathroom and somewhat shut the door, so the sound has to travel into the bathroom, the mic's facing away, it bounces around the bathroom, gets picked up by the mic, and actually can sound pretty good. I did that on my EP, Someone to Blame. If you want to go listen to that. But I love room mics on drums, mainly because it gives me something really cool and interesting to mess with and break. Reverb's fine, and if you want to add reverb to create a fake drum room sound, that's completely legit. I do that a lot when I don't have room mics. But when I have room mics, I get really happy because then I just start to mangle stuff. You know what? This will be easier if I show you in the computer, so let's do that. Before I show you this, keep in mind, this is one very specific way to do overhead or room mics. It doesn't work most of the time. It's a kind of very specific situation, but when the situation calls for it, it's awesome. Real quick, let me just let you hear my overall drum sound that I've got so far. I'm about half to 2/3 of the way through this mix. The thing you need to know about this song, it is one of those that goes real tight in the verses and then gets real big in the choruses. With that in mind, I wanted to first figure out a way to make the choruses really big, and I use the overheads to do that. So here is my overhead sound before I did anything to it. They actually gave me 3 overhead tracks. I'm sorry, I keep saying overhead, I mean room. Here are the room tracks. There was a mono room, a D12 room, and a C phone. I don't even know what that is. But here's what those 3 sound like. I panned 2 of them together and left 1 up the middle. Here's just the raw tracks. So the thing we have going for us is they sound like they were placed in different parts of the room, so we have at least some spread, some width there, which is a big part of what I want overheads or room, man, I keep saying overheads, which is a big part of what I want room mics to do, is give me a little extra width, especially on a song like this. So what I do, I bus them all to this bus here called rooms, slap some distortion on there. Red light distortion is just one of my favorites, and it sounds like this. Especially on the snare, you kind of hear it just go, it just kind of grabs it and makes it gross. Now there's just too much going on frequency-wise, so I need to chill it out a little bit. Cut some of the ringing of the snare. This big cut here's for the cymbals. This here's for extra kick drum that we don't need. So slap this EQ on there, and it sounds, well, I'll kick the EQ on in a second. Okay. Sounds a little phasey, but I'm fine with that. It's going to be background stuff to the rest of the drums. Let's listen again to our drum mix and listen to how much, this doesn't always happen, but listen to how much room sound we're getting in the drum mix. I'll start without the rooms, then I'll add the rooms back in. Does a couple things. Gives it some width, gives it some sense of reverb, and also just makes it sound messy, which I love. If you hate it, fine, don't do this. But if you like a little messy and raucous, this is the way to get it. And then one other cool thing, I've basically muted the overhead, or specifically the rooms, in different sections, so it goes from really tight to really big. The reason I can do all the distortion on the rooms is partially because I'm not using the rooms the entire song, so it doesn't get old. So here's what it sounds like coming out of a verse. Just gets huge. I'll give you a brief listen to what the whole mix sounds like so you can get that in context too. Anyone but yourself. I'd love to see the sadness behind those wasted. There you go. Mangle the rooms and then bring them in on the choruses. Super fun. You can't get something for nothing. Trust. I'm going somewhere special. Something, gotta give something. That's just the way it goes. Ugliest building in Nashville, right there. Let's make a trade, my truth for your lies. Let's make a trade, my lows for your highs. Let's make a trade, myself for your disguise. Let's make a trade. Okay, didn't take any video. Ooh, it's hot in here. At lunch, it just felt weird. You meet somebody for the first time, take a video while you're there. Super cool guy. Found out about me from another guy and was passing through Nashville, wanted to meet up. He's involved in a church in Tokyo, specifically to help develop artists and produce music around musicians as like a primary tool of reaching that community. Super interesting and awesome. It looks like GilderCam will make a trip to Tokyo one day. One day. Starts popping, there ain't no stopping. Can't get it out of your brain. Get out of your brain. Let's make a trade, my truth for your lies. I know. I'm sure Red Bull's not healthy for you. Thing is, I didn't get in here last night. I've got to get this mix done and a few other things. I don't love working at night, but I do it occasionally. Sometimes I get into it. So tonight I said, we're gonna get ourselves some energy and we're gonna get some stuff done. Just about done with this mix, but there's something else I wanted to show you. Remember how I talked about in the last episode how I've been getting into thinking about looping more? Well, I've not perfected it. I've certainly not figured out all the answers, but I've been having fun figuring out different ways to record and to loop things and kind of almost a songwriting tool with an eye towards performance. Anyway, I figured I'd play something for you that I did. Is that cool? Thought you might get a kick out of it. So here's a loop that I did earlier today when I was taking a break. I just started looping with just the microphone and singing and do it. Anyway, take a listen. Creating loops and doing loop recording is not all that original at all. It is an interesting new way of writing that I've never done before. What's interesting about this is all the effects that you heard, the reverb specifically, and the extra bass on my voice when I sang the bass line. I did all that on the console on the way in. So the actual printed audio, the panning, so every one of those were stereo tracks. The panning I did on the fly. I would switch, take the two faders and pull the left one up and the right one up and blend in reverb when I needed it on certain tracks, and then hit a button to turn the EQ on to boost the bass for the kick drum sound and the bass sound. All of that is where it gets really interesting for me. It's not me using plugins after the fact to get the sound. I'm getting the sound on the front end, as getting the sound is part of the performance, and that's really interesting to me. Maybe interesting to you, could be that it's too late and I've had too much Red Bull. All right, I'm gonna end the episode there, I believe. Thanks for hanging out. See ya. Let's make it straight, my truth for your lies. Let's make it straight, my love.